Tiffany Hamilton, and I teach chemistry here at James Clemens.
Debbie Scott, that was AP World History. They are predominantly freshmen, and we are at Bob Jones High School.
So some stations like this one, you're going to be making some comparisons after you play the game. So something is similar to something because?
In this particular class, I have them broken up into groups based on reading level and also based on learning style. So that's how I've chosen to kind of break them up. Now today you saw them mixed in reading level, so I had some highs in with some lows. But you can group based on the lows together, the highs together, based on learning style. Auditory learners versus visual learners. I've also done that. And so it's putting likes together or mixing them together and then being able to pull them apart and work at their individual level.
For today's lesson, all of the students went through stations, and some of the stations were preview into what we're going to go into in the next unit. Some of the stations were review. So I really wanted to give them that extra practice, kind of as a study guide, but an interactive practice, where students were able to receive immediate feedback. Hey, you don't have this right. You need to go back and kind of tweak something.
So at the beginning, we start out with some general instructions. I went around and I showed them the stations. I told them the expectations for the class. They had a piece of paper they were going to take with them, and they were going to write information from each station. But I was very broad. I said, this is what's going to go on. There's directions at each table. I gave them a job, a leader, a timekeeper, and a materials manager. And I told them what that was going to entail, just to kind of keep them on task at each station. Then I assigned them to their group. I put the timer on, and they had 7 minutes at that group. Now I chose the first round I did not have a small group pulled myself, so that I was able to walk around and make sure that they were on task and that my directions were clear.
Context is the big picture. What's going on during that time period? Okay. Anything else you can relate to? Any other breaks? What's it like from a different time period? So those are just questions to get you thinking about that document. Like, you don't know what question I'm going to ask about this, but at least you're familiar with it. Okay. Your head's been thinking about it. What could she ask about that document? Okay.
So once they got going, the second round, they came to me, and I was working with a small group on my own, and they were able to individually work in their individual stations with the directions. And then once the timer went off, they put their materials away and were able to rotate. Now we have done rotations before, so they kind of knew the area to rotate and the way that we normally rotate. But it's organized chaos, but it did seem to work.
And then we had one station that was periodic table battleship, which is, the kids, they have the most fun there. But the purpose behind that station is for when the students actually call out an element, they have to call out the element by name. And the names are not written on the periodic table. With a battleship game, again, as I kind of walk through, I thought back to who didn't do too well on their element test. And so I was able to tap those students on their shoulder and say, hey, I need you to go over to battleship.
I have always chosen to have small group little pods. Now I've added these extra modern seating arrangements this year. I've bought this furniture myself this year and made this table this year. And I think it works for collaboration. And they know the expectations. I mean, we have quiet time and we have individual time, but we do a lot of collaborating. And I feel like they learn better talking to each other and learn from each other, especially when you group them highs and lows. They can feed off of each other. And they have strengths. Some are auditory learners, they like hearing it, and some are visual learners and can draw a picture and can explain it to others using that picture. So I like to play off their strengths.
It would say, to what extent was something a turning point in the post-classical era? Right? Okay. Who's supposed to be the leader in this group? Do we have a leader? All right, Holly, I want you to pick a card. Green? To what extent was the spread of Christianity a turning point? So, right spread of Christianity is your middle spot. Okay. Okay. Left-hand side, put a couple bullet points. What was life like before Christianity? Anything you can think of. It's like that brain dump, right? Anything you can think of. Okay. Before, think of the area it was. Think of what might have happened. Think of what kind of religion they might have had. Think of people's rights. Okay? Anything that you can think of before Christianity. What was life like? No,
Terracotta, that's Asia.
polytheistic.
Terracotta is like with the big rock people.
Okay. None. Good questions. That's actually
That's where the king.
okay. So because really I'm at 19,
That's event.
Christianity happens. What was life like after Christianity?
That's when the king like lost all his power. So that's big.
So the Vikings of before Islam spread to North Africa.
As evidenced by what?
Oh,
No, I just want you to think through the process. So let's look at Francis's real quick. Before Christianity, women probably weren't treated as well. Okay. Afterwards, the monastic lifestyle, women were able to do what? There's Theodora. Good. Theodora is one example too. Women were able to rule. But what about the monastic lifestyle? They were able to be nuns. Remember? And so that gave them a sense that they could do something inside the religion, where before they were not able to.
I have some students that they can finish an assignment in 5 minutes, and then I have some students that I can be working 2 days on a topic and they still don't get it. And so at the beginning of this class, I was able to kind of look through my roster, think about the different kids that I had in my class, and really make a list of the 6 or 7 kids that I'm like, you know what, you need to make sure that you hit the review station. And I really just wanted to work with them one-on-one at that station while everybody else was kind of, doing their own thing, and they didn't feel singled out. Really just being able to meet those needs of all of our learners. Stations are fabulous because it gives me that time.
They needed more instruction. They're struggling with their writing. History writing is different than English writing. And so they are needing more one-on-one attention, in my mind, about how to write and what a claim is and what evidence is in history. And so to me, they needed that personal attention, me looking at what they were writing and being able to make the comments right there in that moment in order to change their thinking or to have an aha moment. Because some of them, I think, had some aha moments like, oh, that's what I need to do. Where if they did that on their own, they may not have made all those connections.
So from today, I was able to walk around, and I actually sat with almost every single student in here and actually had a dialogue with them. Okay, what are you struggling on? Do you feel like you need to go and visit that station? How have you been over the past couple of days?
All right, guys, we got a position open at Moles. Okay, if you feel like you need some more practice on that.
To me, that's where the learning process is happening for those kids. They're able to take a little bit of ownership in their learning, and they're able to think, she's giving me a little bit of freedom to do what I need to do to get this information. So you kind of have to let go. And it's hard sometimes to let go. And you got to trust your students. Trust that you're meeting them where they need to be met and giving them what they need.
A component of learning is it should be fun, okay? And a huge part of it is I love when my kids are learning without me. So if I can do all the work on the front end, like for instance, these stations, I put in a lot of work in these stations. However, the students are learning on their own. They're learning from one another. I've taken some time and I've just, Googled different activities. I've talked to other teachers. Hey, what are some cool things that you're doing in your classroom? That's the biggest thing. You can't be afraid to say, hey, you know what? I'm stumped. I don't know what to do for this unit, and be able to ask people around for help. But it takes time. And I would actually maybe just pick a lesson and say, okay, this entire lesson is going to be interactive, or this entire lesson is going to be stations, and try it.